Welcome to the HR Empowerment Podcast, where we will uncover strategies and new insights from HR professionals who discuss up-to-date regulations, best practices, and the most pressing topics like diversity and equity, leadership, dealing with difficult situations, and much more that affect your bottom line and business. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, everybody, it's Wendy Sellers, the HR lady. I am here with my co-host, JC.
It's a pleasure to be back, Wendy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming back. I am so excited about our guest today. We are going to be talking to a fractional CFO, and everybody that listens to me knows that I butcher last names, so I'm not even going to try to say your last name, Phil, even though I should know it by now. So go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Yes, I'm Phil Nahayeski, the kind of last name that puts me on a first name basis with people rather.
Bingo.
I'm a partner in the Florida CFO group, and like you say, I'm a fractional CFO, Chief Financial Officer.
So, I want to just jump in right now and say, because we want to talk about, how HR and finance and accounting can work together, specifically CFO and CHRO. But what the heck is a fractional CFO, and how can a fractional CFO help many of our listeners who are small businesses?
Sure. Well, I'll first clarify with the distinction between a controller, a CPA, and a CFO, because many businesses tend to think that we're all financial professionals. We're doing the same thing. The controller, much like your accountant or bookkeeper, the main role is to report your financial results. Your CPA, besides doing your taxes, main role is to audit your financial results. What distinguishes the CFO or Chief Financial Officer is we drive financial results. We dedicate our professional lives towards studying and analyzing, experiencing what makes businesses produce better financial results, be it on their top line or bottom line, their income statement, or on the balance sheet or the bank balance. And through our teamwork with the business owners and functional leaders and frontline people across the business, we do whatever it takes to drive better results. Sometimes it involves planning, budgeting, controlling, reporting, course corrections, motivating, prodding, leading. We are just the champions of financial performance at the executive table for a business of any size. Primarily, the life of a CFO has been for large companies because we get compensated fairly well for what we do and far beyond what the small and mid-sized businesses typically afford. Mm-hmm. But as those of us who get tired of the 50 to 60-hour work week that drove us to our pinnacle of our careers in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, in our late 50s, early 60s, we don't mind easing off the accelerator, working on a fractional basis for maybe a few days a week, a few hours a week, whatever fits the needs and the budget of a small and mid-sized business. So that's where fractional comes into play.
That's awesome.
Business owners get high-quality, experienced talent at a fraction of the cost.
So you're basically a consultant, but you're a working consultant. So you're either advising maybe a controller or a CPA or both, or maybe an accounting team, and or you're doing the work with them so they can hire you for either one.
Kind of. I would say that I'll make two corrections of your question and your assumptions, Wendy. One is we don't view ourselves as consultants because we are on the team.
Okay.
Consultants, with those of us who've used a lot of them, we respect them. They come in, share their expertise, and lead. The fractional CFO tends to be a sustaining member of the team, just not on a full-time basis. So we're more team members than consultants. Excellent. The other thing is that a key difference between a CFO and, say, a controller CPA is we've probably spent over half our time with non-financial people. Now, we kind of make sure that everybody from operations to sales to HR, customer service understands the financial impact of what they do, and we figure out ways to collaborate so we can drive financial results together. Yes, we happen to be really good at overseeing controllers and selecting and managing controllers and CPAs, and that's a value add we do for the business owners. But that's probably the lesser part of what we do. More than half our time is spent with non-financial people.
Well, I'm so glad I made a false assumption and that you were here to correct me, because I'm sure, like some of our listeners, they probably also had no idea what it is. There's always these new titles that appear, right? And I know this isn't something that's new, but I am seeing it a lot more in the workspace, just the term fractional CFO. I'm seeing it a lot of places. And every time I see it, I think of you, and I have a few other friends that you and I both know that are, in that same space, that they're saying, you know what, I want to help many companies, not just one company, but I do want to dial it back a little bit. So thank you on behalf of small businesses for wanting to do that and jumping in, because we all need help. We all need financial help. I always laugh, I'm the HR lady, so, I'm an expert in the people space, but I can barely work a calculator. So I lean on my, my counting people. I'm like, please don't trust any numbers that come from me.
But we have to combine our superpowers, don't we?
We really do. We really do. And that's what I want to talk about today. Is I want to talk about, how can HR work with the CFO, or the fractional CFO in this case. But, for the purpose of today's group, it's not just about fractional CFO. It's about HR and the CFO working together as a team. I want to kind of go off of our agenda real quick for a minute before we jump into episode 2 is, Phil, what are your thoughts about who HR should be reporting to? Because I see it in some businesses that it's the CFO or a controller or even, a COO. And in my mind, it should be the CEO. It should be the head cheese.
Yeah, no, it really depends on the people involved. I am a believer that there's no right answer to that across the board. You have to look at the talents of the CEO, COO, CFO to make that decision as far as where it's the best fit in the organization. Regardless of where it fits, we CFOs and CHROs need to be joined at the hip to be collaborating, because all finance is people driven, and we need to work together, because no matter how great a strategic plan we may come up with, if we don't have talented, engaged employees, it's not worth the paper it's printed on.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I want to talk about next, I'm just going to kind of set us up for this, is talking about, okay, well, what do you mean, about driving the business with people, and, people is money. Let's talk in episode 2 about metrics and how the heck does HR, who may have never heard of metrics before, get these metrics? Where do they come from? I know that's what I struggled with when I was younger in the HR space. And I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by some really amazing people that probably saw deer in headlights looking at me and said, you know what, let me teach you about what these numbers mean and how they can help HR, how they can help the business, and how they can help someone in HR, rise to the top successfully instead of just being stepped all over. So in episode 2 of 5, which is coming up, I do want to talk about metrics in HR, how the CFO can help HR get these metrics, because they're so difficult to obtain. We'll be right back.
Thank you for joining the HR Empowerment Podcast, brought to you by Aurora Training Advantage. We hope you've gained new insight and strategies to navigate the HR profession. We look forward to you joining us again on the HR Empowerment Podcast.